Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPclub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPclub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPclub.lv today and get a generous 200% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPclub.lv. Visit VIPclub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPclub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, actually the co-host today, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your second midday market report for Friday, June 2nd, 2023. That time of year, Stanley Cup opening face-off tomorrow night as the Vegas Knights and head coach Bruce Cassidy twist the knife, Bruins fans, in the cup against the Panthers. Currently, Knights minus 135. You can get the Panthers at around plus 115 in the series. And next Thursday, CFL kicks off. Myself and Andrew will be doing a lot of breakdowns throughout the weeks coming on CFL. Where can you grab it? Right here. Where can you get some picks, props, and much, much more? Of course, from Andrew McInnis. Shout out to our new sponsor, VIPclub.lv. Go sign up. Bonuses galore. Greatest customer service in the land there. And a shout out to Ben Cohen and Joe Shea behind the desk and for all their work leading up to our new sponsor. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only, Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon. How are you?
Doing great. Looking forward to halfway through the show, changing this background from baseball to football. CFL pretty much 1 week away. Stanley Cup Finals start tomorrow. It's weird. It's weird that I haven't spoken about hockey for several days now. Looking forward to it, chatting about some stuff, and it feels great to be talking with you, Jeff.
You know, I want to. It's kind of. You know, I'm looking at this and I'm afraid to say this out loud. Shout out to Connor. Good afternoon, Connor. Hope all is well in your world. From a numbers standpoint, I'm looking at this and I know I've talked to a lot of colleagues. I know it's tough to go against Bob and the Panthers and Kachuk. I mean, we go back to game 3. 3-1 Bruins. Marchand breakaway, Bob saves it, overtime, the rest is history. Since that save, they won 3 against the Bruins, then they take down the Leafs 4-1. They then sweep the Hurricanes, yet the Knights opened up minus 130 and now minus 135. What am I missing, Andrew?
I truly believe, Jeff, that people are still handicapping this Florida Panthers team based on the team that they were in the regular season. Either that or people just thought that Vegas was absolutely the team, and maybe they still do, but I'm a little bit surprised by that. And, I've been using this analogy quite a bit, and I've learned lots from you when we talk about numbers and things, but you tell me if this makes any sense. But I always tell people this, when I got my buddies over and we're watching NFL Sunday together, let's say a team opened up -7 and they somehow find themselves down 10 at halftime. Wow, I can get this team pick 'em right now just to win the game. Wow, what a great number I have. They were -7, now they're a dog or they're pick 'em. That's the biggest problem that I see right now with the NHL is that people are handicapping this team based on who they were 3 months ago and not who they are right now. And the reason why I bring up the NFL example is that once that game starts, once the NHL playoffs start, you have to throw out the window what you thought before the game or before the playoffs started. And I feel like it's really important to look at because people, I think, when they're live betting the NFL or when they're, betting within a series in the NHL, they still want to look at, well, I mean, look at Miami. They're an 8 seed. Look at Florida. They're an 8 seed. Yes, but have you not been watching what's going on during the playoffs? And that to me is the biggest mistake people are making. You talked about it, Jeff. Not only did they beat the Leafs, they gentlemen swept them. And then you look at what they did against the Hurricanes. Sure, they were all pretty close games. But guess what? Nobody's really asking what the score was in those games anymore, are they? They won those games. So my answer is that I think people are still talking about this Florida team for what they were months ago and not who they are right now. So I'm not saying, they're going to just go and do the same thing to Vegas. They've done to Tampa and Carolina, or excuse me, Toronto and Carolina. But I truthfully believe people are still thinking this Florida team is the same team that barely made the playoffs. Does that make any sense?
It does. And so we had the Panthers pre-flop against Carolina. They sweep them. We waited till after game 1, Vegas and Dallas. We jumped in on Dallas plus the 170. Obviously, that was a loss. Question I would ask you is, if you're on the Panther side on the series, do you take them pre-flop or do you split it up, take them pre-flop? And if they lose, you're going to be able to then grab them after game 1 at around plus 170 or 80 as well.
Yeah, well, that's the big question. The way I look at it is, first of all, I mean, like you talked about with how that series went against Carolina, they are the rested team. Is that beneficial? When you've got a groove, you're in a certain mojo, do you want that rest? I mean, they did go to, 4 overtimes? They played 2 hockey games within one game. Maybe they need the rest, but sometimes that could take a little bit of that swag away from a team. But I'm a big believer that the underdogs are very live in game 1. If I'm looking to play Vegas, I know it's kind of funny to say this because game 1 hasn't even happened yet. I'm looking at betting them in game 2, Jeff. Depending on what happens in game 1, of course, I have to see it play out, but I already kind of have my target set. Having said that, I also believe that when I look at this series, I think that low scoring games benefit Florida and higher scoring games benefit the Golden Knights.
I'm just afraid of Bob was so hot, and all of a sudden you give up a cheapie, a bad bounce. Do we get regular season Bob, or can he shake it off and regain that traction?
Yeah, I mean, I wish you luck betting against the guy right now. That's the problem, right? Like, who wants to bet against him? But I agree with you. I think that I've been saying for the large part that the NHL has changed where the series start low scoring and they pick up as it goes on, whereas it used to be the opposite many years ago. But I've got a feeling tomorrow we might see some goals just based on the rest, based on these teams not knowing each other very well. And also, I'll say right now, one of my favorite plays for tomorrow is the first period over 1.5. I hit that most games in the Dallas Vegas series. We've seen what Florida's done is a lot of their damage has actually been done early in games, unless it's been, late heroics, with dying minutes in the third period. Both teams love to get a lead and protect it, which is why in the second period has almost been the lowest scoring period between both of them. You think back to the Florida and Toronto series, we always saw fireworks in the first period, and the second period calmed right down. Very similar to the Dallas and Vegas series, and it's hard to really compare anything to that Oilers and Vegas series because Oilers don't know how to play defense. So I can't really say the same thing for that one, but something tells me we will see tomorrow start with a bang. And I don't have the numbers offhand for you, but at home especially, it seems like Vegas always gets off to a hot start.
No doubt. I mean, the Fortress will be rocking. We know that. And the fact of the matter is, there's usually a goal. Listen, you can go watch the intros, you can watch the national anthems, and then you can go run to the kitchen, make yourself a sandwich, grab yourself a cold one, and sit down, and it's 1-1, and you just miss 4 minutes. And you're like, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Yeah.
I mean, because you usually see a goal early in the Fortress.
You do. And you know what's interesting is, I know I keep reverting back to it, but you look at that Dallas and Vegas series, Jeff. I believe at one point in the series, well, after 4 games, and I remember this for sure, after 4 games, the first period over was 3-1. The full game over was 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've got some people like that will still say to me, how the hell are you handicapping a total in one period? I'm just saying I'm watching the games. I read the numbers, and there's actually websites that I look at where they divide the dangerous scoring chances by period. So it's definitely something where, like you talked about, the Fortress, they come out and play so fast that Bruce Cassidy might get them in the room and say, boys, we're up 2-0 after 1. Let's play some defense here. And I think if people get it a little bit mixed up when I say that, not like the coach is going to say, hey, stop trying to score, but it's more so, hey, you've almost done your job. Let's make life really hard for them. Let's get the forecheck going. So it's very interesting because the second period in the regular season is statistically the highest scoring period. And in the NHL playoffs, we've almost seen that be the opposite, where it's been one of the lower scoring periods, because after 1, usually a team is up. And if that's the case, they try and protect that. And then in the third period, desperation sets in, and either the team that's up scores more or we see a comeback happen. So I look for more of that this series. But I've got a couple of interesting ones I wanted to run by you. And one of the ones I was interested in was over under 1.5 games in the series to go to overtime. It's at plus 145, 150. And I know that some people could say, well, it's, look at the price that's out there for just betting the overtime every single game. You know what I mean? If you did that. But if this goes 6 or 7 games and you're betting that every single time and it only goes over to overtime twice, you're going to lose money. So I like this at plus 145. And there's another one that I saw. Will either team or either goalie record a shutout in the series? At first, I was looking at the over thinking, you know what? There always seems to be a flat spot. In every series, one team gets a shutout. But, Jeff, you'd think that price would be a little bit better. It was plus 105 for there to be a shutout. So I'm going with the no. I'm going with the no at minus 120. Will there be a shutout from either goalie? I think that both teams have it in them to at least contend, to at least, make a game out of each. I think we will see a tight, series. But even if, let's say, Vegas wins a game, 4-1, 4-2, I still think Florida, finds a way to get to the back of the net. So I don't know. To be honest, I was just a little bit shocked by that price that we saw. I also think the series goes 6 games. Which you can look at the exact number. And that literally varies depending on each book, but I'm seeing like plus 205, plus 210, those numbers. And I wanted to mention one Conn Smythe guy, because honestly, I think if you like Bobrovsky or Tkachuk or Eichel, you're kind of a little bit late to the party. I know that we can't travel back in time, so people can still bet it if they want. I think Jonathan Marchessault at 7-1 odds is a good bet. I mean, the guy just keeps on scoring big goals for his team. He keeps stepping up. He's scoring goals late in the game. And just as well as I do, in NBA, NHL, heroics are remembered when they give out those awards. If you're a guy that scores a lot of first period goals and you're going head to head Conn Smythe voting against a guy that scores a lot of third period goals, you know who's winning it. And kind of a funny story about me liking him but disliking him. I'm in a playoff hockey pool, a fantasy pool, and there's about 12 or 13 of us. My team's in first place, but I only have 1 player left, and the other guy has 2. But I'm up 9 or 10 points. He's got Jonathan Marchessault, and he's got Chandler Stevenson, and I have William Karlsson. So this guy literally, because of Jonathan Marchessault, has pulled a comeback on me, and now I was dominating this league. So I've been using almost like a hedge to my little fantasy pool. betting on Jonathan Marchessault each day, because that way, even if he scores and he gets points in that pool, I'm making some money. But what do you think about me saying, Jeff, that those guys? I know that because I did talk on your show about some other guys a couple weeks ago. But what do you think about me saying if you like Tkachuk, you're kind of out of the picture on that? I mean, I guess really you're getting a better price on Tkachuk and Bob than you are on Florida to win, but I still think that it would just pay me to look at that when I could have got him 20-1 4 weeks ago.
Well, it's the same thing as someone trying to get cute. Now, in the NBA, we talked about it for the last couple of weeks as the West was breaking down and Denver, excuse me, rising to the top. You could have got the Joker at plus 190, at plus 150, at even money. And as the Celtics started to slip, then there goes the Joker, minus 150, minus 190. If you went to the window before the opening tip, he was minus 340 to win the MVP. So if you liked Denver, who was minus 420 last night on DraftKings to win the NBA title, it was cheaper to grab Joker at minus 340 and to grab the MVP. And I correlated it as this, and anyone that's been following our shows all year long knows exactly what I'm talking about here. Before the NFL playoffs began, ECSI had a 13-1 on Cincinnati and a 14-1 on the 49ers. Now, we needed some exposure to the Eagles. We needed some exposure to the Chiefs. So we got Jalen Hurts at 6-1 to win the Super Bowl MVP, and we got Mahomes at 4-1 to win the MVPs. And people said, Jeff, why'd you do that? Well, because the Eagles were plus 180 to win the West, and the Chiefs were plus 190 to win the East, the AFC, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking for value. So again, when the playoffs started, if you had a miraculous Biff's Almanac and got Bob at 20-1, Tkachuk at 20-1, God bless you.
Yes.
Because so my question to you is, you got a 7-1 with Marchessault. Who would be your big ticket price on the Panther side if it wasn't Bob or Tkachuk?
Let's take a look here. Well, if it's not Bob or Tkachuk, the next one, according to the odds makers, I'm seeing Barkov. But the thing is, Jeff, looking at the odds boards, they're pretty much saying it's Bob, Tkachuk, or nobody else for Florida. Like the next closest odds is 50-1. So you got a plus 210, plus 290, and 50-1. So because those guys have been both, we've got 3 overtime winners in one series? I think it was one series for Tkachuk, right? Or maybe it was spread out. I think it's 4 between the Leafs and the Hurricane series, something like that. 2 or maybe 3 between those two teams. So, I mean, again, I talk about the heroics, right? How important the heroics can be when you're talking about winning awards like that. I don't know if Jack Eichel's a lock for the Vegas Golden Knights, though. I don't, because like I said, he's gotten a lot of assists. He has some goals, don't get me wrong, but the big goals have gone to either William Karlsson or Marchessault, and they're both 7-1. Here's a flyer I'd say to you, though. Aiden Hill is 12-1. That one kind of piques my interest a little bit. Something tells me this could be the year of the goalies.
What about Stone?
Stone, I'm seeing 10-1.
Okay. So if I asked you right now, Andrew, it seems like you're leaning to the left on Vegas?
For Vegas to win the series?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they get it done in a long series, but I need to see game 1 play. I believe in Florida. Here's the truth, and you and I talked about this, is this. From a value perspective, I personally think that there's value on Vegas right now with these odds. I thought I was going to get a better number with Florida. I really did. So, I mean, I guess it's weird because I keep on thinking to myself, well, do people like Vegas or not? So you tell me, do the sports books, because when I saw this, I was like, maybe they're actually starting to like Florida, or they realize that, because shouldn't people be hammering Vegas at this price? And I don't mean in disrespect to Florida, but I'll tell you what, Jeff, I'll be mad at myself if Florida wins game 1, because they very well could, because then I'm going to feel forced to take Vegas. But I think Florida has a good chance to win this series, but at these odds, I feel like I have to take Vegas. So to answer your question, I'm kind of talking in circles, but from the value perspective, I like Vegas.
I'll go back to the inaugural year. I think we had the Capitals pre-flop plus 145 or 160. It was a big number. Vegas was a huge, huge favorite. Capitals lost the first 2 games, if I'm remembering this correctly. Then they came back and won the next 4. My take on what I've seen through the series, and we talked about this when you sent the number, I was wrong. I think it'll be closer to a pick 'em by opening faceoff. Just what I am seeing, you beat the Presidential Cup winner, the greatest regular season in history. You then take down the Maple Leafs in 5, and then you sweep Carolina. Now, I, in my mind, had Vegas minus 120, Panthers plus 105, and by opening face-off a pick. So what you are saying is 100% correct. I'm just opposite, meaning I think Vegas, sports books and casinos, DraftKings, they're begging you for Panther money.
Mm-hmm.
They're begging you. They're like, come on. You got Bob, you got Kachuk. Look who you guys beat. I think that the number should be a lot lower. And it opened at 130 in some spots and went right to 135. That's why I'm scratching my head and I'm asking you, what am I missing here? I'm missing something.
See, like that's the thing. And for the record, like I agree with you, but I also think like what we think and what the books think sometimes is different from how we view like the matchup and looking at what Vegas was able. Because here's the deal. You and I keep talking about what Florida did to get to where they are today. We haven't once talked about really what Vegas has done to get here. Isn't that a problem? That's the way we haven't even talked about, because you know why? They beat Winnipeg, who had their goalie get a little bit banged up. Their 2 best goal scorers pretty much get injured. They go through an Oilers team that couldn't stop me and you on a 2-on-1 breakaway. And then the Stars, they lost their scoring touch. I'm not discounting the Vegas Golden Knights, but it is interesting because I hate to use this word trap, but it seems like Vegas, like the bookmakers are saying, do you like Florida? How bad do you like them? Like, do you want Florida? Because what I'm probably going to do is this, Jeff. I'm going to play just totals in game 1 probably. And then after game 2, I'll make some decisions about jumping into the series or not. From a fan perspective, I know this is a betting show, but I'll make it clear. From a fan perspective, I'm cheering for Florida. I was saying this on Sports Grid the other day. There's 16 Canadian players on the Vegas Golden Knights. When Matt Peralt and all those guys tell me there's no Canadian team in the Cup Finals, Vegas is the Canadian team in the finals right now. But I just have a beef with expansion teams. You know how long it's been since the Montreal Canadiens last won a Stanley Cup? That's my favorite team. Vegas cannot win a Stanley Cup before I get to see my team that I've watched my whole life since I could watch TV win a Stanley Cup. That's my beef.
So I think at this point, what we'll do is we're going to watch game 1. I think the word trap's a great thing because my real opening number was Vegas minus 130. It's now at circa 129, at South Point 135. Now, again, there's no one sharper than the circa. So you would think in Vegas, that would be the most money bet on Vegas is one of them would be at the circa. And they're at 129, which leads me to believe that they get some sharp money on the Panthers here. And they're kind of willing Vegas bettors because you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and I think that they will hit Vegas. Now, if Vegas wins game 1, do you jump back into Florida? I think you do. But you know what scares me the most, Andrew, is game 3 and game 6. Vegas just ripped the heart out of the Stars in the first period. The game was over. 3-0,
Yes.
3-0. Thanks for playing.
So I know you don't bet these very often. You mostly bet the first period, like puck line and stuff. But that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Do we just keep betting these first period totals then? Like, what do you think? I know you don't bet those very often, but I keep reverting back to the fact that during the year, most games you want to bet first period over, you're laying 30, 40, 50, 60 cents. We're getting 120 with this. And I get it because the total is not very high. But like you said, I mean, you just sent me a soft lob right up the middle for that one. That this is a team that scores most of their goals in the first period. And you make the joke about getting your drink ready. I'm not even joking. For that last Dallas game, before I even sat down, really, the game was over. I had the game on. I was walking around the kitchen, doing some errands, cleaning the house a little. I was like, well, this isn't going to be a fun night. I turned to the Heat game. Heat and Sixers went on my TV. I was done. So I'm going to keep betting those first period overs. But like I said, if Florida takes game one, I'll be on Vegas in game two. Let me ask you this: how big of an overreaction do we see from? Let's say Florida wins 4-2, game one. What are the odds in game two? Do you think?
Vegas minus 140. They're not going to lose 2 in a row at home.
Yeah,
that's what they're going to paint. And I'm just going to say this. If you like Vegas tomorrow, you're probably getting a nice carrot on them minus the hook in the first period. I assume they're laying a decent number. Do you have that number in front of you?
I can get it in 2 seconds. Yeah, this is going to be pretty. Vegas first period plus 175.
So in other words, if you were betting the over on the first period, my point is, if you're on Team Vegas, you have to sprinkle something on them minus the hook in the first period, and here's why: is that first 5 to 8 minute eruption. They usually do first 10 minutes. Will there be a goal? Sometimes when it gets crazy, first 5 minutes. My point is, if you're assuming it's going to get to 2, well, you're hoping it's not 1-1 or 2-0 Panthers. My point is, if you're betting the Vegas Knights to win tomorrow minus the 129 at Circa, you have to have something on them minus a hook in the first period because they're giving you plus 175.
I agree with that. Anybody that likes them tomorrow should be betting that. Something that kind of piques my interest because I really like the first period over in general. Plus 175 for Vegas to win the first period tomorrow, Jeff. For both teams to score in the first period is plus 165. A lot of times when I've hit these over 1.5 bets this year, it's been 1-1 after one. So Leafs in Florida, 2-1 after one, 3-1 after one. It's interesting to see. Well, but I don't like to be greedy though when I make those bets. That's the thing. I'm talking about it right now with you, but you can give me $1.20. I'll kick myself if I end up getting a 2-0 result after the first period and I played both teams to score. I can't do it.
Well, pick and choose. We spent a half hour on the cup. I want to make sure we get out some information, as I stated before the show started. CFL, that's not College Football League. It is Canadian Football League. And myself and Andrew have been doing shows now for a couple of years. He is the expert. I am getting better, though, at reading the market. And we got kickoff on Thursday. So what myself and Andrew wanted to do is just to have Andrew talk about a few teams, talk about a few previews. And on DraftKings, anyone on DraftKings can follow along. They have team futures. They have some player total props. And they have some regular season wins. So I want Andrew to take the 15-yard button hook here that I just threw him and run with the preview on some CFL futures.
Yeah, so much to look at. I got just a bunch of notes. So if you see me looking to the right, I'll be completely real. I'm reading some stuff that I wrote down. I'd rather just be right than try and just memorize some stuff. So, the obviously there's only it's a short league for anybody that doesn't follow it that much. There's only 4 games a week. Some weeks there's only 3. So picture yourself every single week when you're handicapping college football, college basketball, or even the NFL, and you've got that many games, try and tell yourself, I can't find one winner each week in the CFL. I think we can all do it together. If you guys follow along with Jeff and I every Wednesday, I think you'll start liking the CFL. You'll be commenting and betting this with us. So want to mention this. The underdogs are never out of it. The Toronto Argonauts were second or third in their division for most of the year last year. They end up winning the Grey Cup. They were in a softer division than the West. Jeff talked about it. I talked about it later on in the year as well, but you said that number is a little fishy, and you were able to figure it out. Look at the Argos this year. I mean, they were 11-7 last year, dealt with injuries at the quarterback position, and now Chad Kelly. Everybody that follows, American football knows all about Chad Kelly. He gets the team. The team is his now. McLeod Bethel Thompson, he went over to the USFL, so he's done with the CFL. But defense is the name of the game with the Argos. One thing with them is that they were able to sign back a lot of defensive guys, and that was really key in the CFL. I always tell people one thing about this league, there's so much change, so much turnover that every year you're figuring out who went where, who's on what team, which coach is coaching what team. It's very interesting. So very, very talented front seven as well. I like them over 9.5 wins. You can get that -125 across most books. They've got lots of talent, but the biggest thing about this team is their running back core. From vets to young guys, they will run the ball down your throat. Watch out for unders this year with the Toronto Argos, Jeff. They're going to be a team that we're going to be betting on this team. We're going to be betting some unders with them, but they might not be in the most exciting games. You know, the clock keeps running in the CFL, and especially when they're running the ball, we might see some quarters go by pretty fast if they start running the ball at 5 yards at a time, 4 yards at a time. So that's one that I like quite a bit. The Red Blacks, they're a team. They've struggled. Since they were in the Grey Cup 2018, they haven't earned more than 4 wins in 3 straight years. They've struggled big time, and a lot of it's been due to injuries. Like when you talk about unlucky teams, even when they've drafted well, they've made right trades, they've just had injuries. But I talk about the turnover with rosters and coaching staff. So 2 years ago, they get rid of their entire coaching staff and they keep the players. Last year, they get rid of the players and they keep the coaching staff. At some point, you got to figure out what the hell are you doing here. So now, so we look at this team, new DC from last year, and then we've got all kinds of guys that are coming in. They pick up Jalen Acklin, who should be a big guy for them that is hopefully going to be healthy this year to create some dangerous plays. Jeremiah Masoli, they're hoping that he's going to lead them to the promised land. But I'm not really expecting much out of them early. But here's the thing. And I wanted to talk about this and bring them up on the show with you. They might be our Edmonton Elks this year. They might be our early season dog that hangs around in games. They've got weapons. The only problem is they left their defense on the field so long that in the second halves, they were getting blown out. The defense was exhausted. They did make some change in the offseason to their defense. It's funny because as sports bettors, we're going to talk about the league. We're going to talk about standings together, Jeff, but what do you and I care about? Which teams are covering? That's all we care about, the money. So they might be a team that covers the spread for us quite a bit. The Alouettes, they've been a mess with injuries. They've been changing their team too much. Their defense, their special teams is very weak. They do get a new quarterback, though, with Cody Fajardo, which I do think is an upgrade over Trevor Harris. I like Trevor Harris, but you know what I've realized, Jeff? It doesn't matter who you like. They could be the nicest guy in the world. If they throw 2 picks a game, doesn't matter. You got to bet against those guys. And Cody Fajardo is definitely an upgrade. William Stanback, one of the best running backs in the league. He got injured in week 2 or week 3 last year from Montreal. And in general, teams shouldn't just fall to the ground off one injury. They certainly did. In the CFL, with it being just a 3-down league, the running backs are so important to be able to have that big presence to start your drive off on a good note or to get you a few yards. So I expect them to struggle, especially early on in the season. Saskatchewan, 4-1 start last year and then 2-11 after that. That tells you all you need to know about them with injuries and things. But overall, I talk about how change is a big factor in the CFL. this is one of my favorite unders for win totals. I like the under 7.5 wins for Saskatchewan. And again, they had 6 wins last year. Like they started off 4-1, but to me, it was like strength of schedule to start off their year. When they played any solid teams in the West, they weren't faring very well. And new OC, new DC, there's just new quarterback. There's just so much change for them that some teams, it works for them. Like, it's different when a really good team loses their coach and they just want to, we made it to the championship game, but we didn't get there. Look at the Bucks, right? The Milwaukee Bucks firing their coach. Different scenario here. This is just a team that needed to make a bunch of changes. The Lions, I'm really looking really high on the Lions. This will be my first future I'll give out here. I like them at plus 550. I think is the number you can currently get to win the Grey Cup. They're a team that is just very well rounded. They've got a lot of returning players. They did make some changes to their defensive front guys, so they'll hopefully be able to put some good pass pressure. Nathan Rourke, he goes off and signs a contract with the Jacksonville Jags. You and I spoke about him quite a bit last year. He just lit up the league. Every game they were involved in was 30, 35 points. I was betting overs a lot with them. But they do have a good guy. Several guys, really. Dane Evans now, but also they've got big play VA, as I like to call him, Vernon Adams Jr. He had just 1 interception last year after starting 8 games. That's really impressive to me. In a league that you throw the ball so much, just 1 interception, 1,500 yards. And again, a lot of returning players, which as anybody can tell right now, that's really important to me. The Elks, I'm just going to list a big question mark there. I could read some stuff, but they're a big question mark. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Jeff, I'll put it this way. For many, many, many years, they've been that team. They've got their quarterback, Zach Collaros, is listed at plus 150 to have the most passing yards. He's the favorite by a mile. So they're just the chalk at this point. We'll try and find certain spots to bet on them or bet against them or bet some totals. The big thing with them is their defense. They don't get enough credit. Everyone talks about their offense. Their defense puts them in a good position to succeed quite often. But a lot to break down there really quickly. But and last but not least, Calgary. They're one of my favorite overs for win totals in the West. I've been talking about them quite a bit. Very well-rounded, very well coached. Bo Levi Mitchell, he's playing for Hamilton now. Although Jake Meyer stole the starting job from Bo Levi Mitchell, he kind of had Bo just breathing down his throat, just looking over his shoulder. Now Jake Meyer knows that team is his. They made some changes. They picked up some guys for the defensive line. I believe Hauser, they picked him up. He had 30 tackles last year. I think like 7 sacks. Very impressive for me. And they've got a sneaky defense. And again, this coaching staff's been there for many years. A lot of the players have been there for a long time. And the value I can get on them this year, not only to win the West, but also over their win total, I think it's one of my favorites. So looking forward to cashing some tickets. And overall, Jeff, I think that Calgary is going to be the team that I'm going to use this word everyone throws around. We're going to have the most value on to start the season. I think Calgary won't be as respected as they should.
You got Calgary team total over 9.5. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. On DraftKings, there are some player totals. Was there any player totals that you wanted to talk about before Wednesday?
Well, I looked at a couple of them. Again, I mentioned that the passing yards, we've got Zach Collaros. He's leading by quite a bit for the passing yards, but I mentioned how good the Winnipeg defense is, which brings him onto the field a lot. He'll have the opportunity to throw. There's one I like, most receiving yards, Lucky Whitehead from the BC Lions. I mentioned I like this Lions team quite a bit. I like how well-rounded they are. And when I say that, he's still the guy, but he's the guy that catches a lot of deep balls. And that's the thing, is that each team has their go-to check down players and guys that are going to catch the 6 or 7 yard plays for the first down. Lucky Whitehead is the guy going to catch the 40-yard ball and run to the end zone with it. So at 7-1, if he stays healthy and BC continues to have the explosive offense, because here's one thing I'm looking at, Jeff, is that even when I look at some of these names like Ackland, Malik Henry, Tim White, Eugene Lewis is one that I look at, but this is the thing. He got picked up by the Elks. So if the Elks aren't very good, I don't care how many times he catches the ball. If their offense isn't on the field, how can he get receptions? BC was involved in many games last year that the winning team had to score 30 points plus. So I really like Lucky Whitehead to win that one. And regular season most rushing yards, I'm a little bit tempted by playing AJ Roulette 15-1. He's kind of my long shot, I guess we would say. I'm going to put a little sprinkle on him. He's way down the list. But he's a guy that I think will be the number one guy, and he'll take over for his team. So when you look at him and really overall the roster on Toronto, nobody really thinks they're going to be able to repeat and do what they did last year, but he was a big part of their Grey Cup victory, and you're getting him at 15-1. So Jeff, I hope they keep these up here so you and I can circle back and look at them and see how they're kind of moving around and updating.
I think they will. We had Dan Alexander on, also of Wager Talk, yesterday from Premier Lacrosse, and as the year progresses, they always are moving the tote board, as we like to say. And, for people that didn't jump in pre-flop, it will allow us to follow the movement from DraftKings on these props, futures. You and I talked all season last year about when to get in on certain teams, when, to fade, vice versa. So I'm glad they're up early, and hats off to DraftKings.
Yes.
I think a lot of these sports books are behind the times, and there's some that aren't afraid to stick their neck out. And, I'm about an hour from DraftKings, and I do shows weekly with Julian Edlow, and we hope to keep that up. And maybe someday, this show was brought to you by DraftKings. And so exciting times, sir. Weekend here. Stanley Cup starts Saturday night. The scroll has been going the whole time. Anyone that's not watching or following Andrew, please go to Twitter on McInnis Picks at Wager Talk as well. Go over to Sports Mayflower and follow there. And you can go to YouTube at Mayflower Sports and subscribe. It's free. While you're there, jump on over to East Coast Sports Investors YouTube channel and subscribe there. It is free as well. Andrew, before we close, we always give you the final say in the matter. What do you have going this week, the start of June, and moving forward at Wager Talk?
Well, I just want to thank you for giving me the platform, as always, having me on here with you. And just mention, of course, that everyone talks about the dog days of summer, but with the CFL approaching, with baseball still kicking around and so many different things going on, they're going to stretch out that Stanley Cup Finals, and I believe it will go 6 or 7 games. So you can get all my picks over at Wager Talk, of course. Different packages available, 3 days, 7 days, 1 month. But I do recommend checking out the full win totals and futures report. You just heard a handful of things I like, but if you want the detailed analysis and all that good stuff, that'll be available tomorrow on my page for $15. So if you're going to be following along with Jeff and I all season long for $15, you might as well join me on all my future wagers, get some analysis, get the stuff that I wrote down that you saw me looking over to read, and hopefully we can cash all season long. And it's just so interesting because there's 4 games a week. Next week is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you've never given the Canadian Football League a chance, it's different than the NFL. Don't go in thinking you're going to see the same thing as the NFL. It's a different league with some different rules. Lots of fun to watch, and brought a smile to my face hearing that Jeff watched some games last year. So especially if we start making some money, I'm sure you'll be watching again.
1,000%. Can't thank you enough as always. Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks and at Wager Talk. Go follow him. Myself at EC Sports Invest, all on the Twitter. I'm not sure, but I'm going to say at 5 o'clock, Riley Magnuson will come on in and do a closing bell. I haven't confirmed, but I think he'll be back there. Shout out to Ben Cohen and Joseph Shea behind the glass, doing all editing and producing. Shout out to Connor. Thank you as always. He says, loves football more than anything. Beyond excited to start dipping the toes into the CFL work.
Awesome.
Thank you, Connor. And a shout out to our new sponsor, VIPclub.lv. Thank you guys for jumping on board with us. And the weekend's here. Cheers to all. Always remember, stay in your lanes, stay focused, and we will see you soon.